Hello everyone, welcome to the Film Recaps, and today I'm going to explain an action-adventure film called The Mummy. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. 5,000 years ago, a beautiful princess named Amenet was the sole heir to the Egyptian throne. She was beautiful, cunning, and extremely ambitious, and she wanted to be worshipped like the gods of Egypt. She was destined to become the queen, but one day her father's consort gave birth to a son. This boy was destined to take her position in the future, but the princess refused to accept her fate. Amenet used her own blood to summon Seth, the god of death, and was willing to sacrifice everything to achieve her ambition. She made a pact with Seth, which caused a dark spell to spread throughout her body. Eventually, Amenet became a demon serving the god of death. She not only killed her father with her own hands, but also showed no mercy to her youngest brother. However, the pact would only be fulfilled when the princess embodied Seth in human form. Before she could complete the ritual, the pharaoh's guards arrived just in time. They used poison needles to paralyze her, rendering her unable to use her magical powers. The princess was then subjected to the most brutal of punishments. Her body was mummified and sealed in a death coffin for eternity. Her sarcophagus was eventually banished to a place far from Egypt, buried in the abyss of endless darkness, where it would remain until the right time. 5,000 years later, a missile strike on a village in Iraq inadvertently destroys the tomb that holds the princess. The military quickly seals off the area, and archaeologist Jenny, along with special agent Nick and his colleague Vale, enters the site, making their way into the tomb. As soon as they descend into the tomb, they find mercury flowing everywhere. In ancient Egyptian mythology, mercury weakens the power of demons. As they approach the tomb, they are completely stunned by the scene before them. In front of them was a deep pit, around which mercury had gathered. A large number of idols stood guard, but instead of facing outward, they all faced inward. This indicated that their role was to seal, rather than to guard. From the bottom of the pit, 3 chains protruded, their purpose being to lock the demon at the bottom of the well. With these clues before her, Jenny quickly deduces that this is not a tomb, but rather an ancient Egyptian prison designed to seal a demon. Meanwhile, Nick finds the switch that controls the chains, and as he shoots to break the chain, the gears begin to turn rapidly. The sarcophagus, which had been buried deep in mercury, slowly lifts, and as they observe the pattern on its surface, a chill spreads through all of them. When Nick stares, a vision begins to appear before his eyes in the middle of the endless desert. A graceful figure slowly walks toward him. As she draws closer, her face becomes clearer, and just as she is about to kiss Nick, Jenny snaps him out of the trance in time. Suddenly, a large number of spiders emerge from the cave, and Vale is bitten by one of them. He immediately grabs his rifle and fires wildly, but the bullets barely do any damage. They quickly decide to evacuate, and the military uses a helicopter to lift the stone sarcophagus out of the tomb. With the sarcophagus now removed, a large number of crows suddenly gather outside, but the group pays little attention to these strange occurrences. They load the sarcophagus onto the plane and prepare to bring it back to the base for further study. Just as the plane takes off, the weather, which had been clear and sunny, suddenly changes, and a sandstorm erupts. On the plane, Vale walks up to the sarcophagus and begins using a dagger to cut the fixation straps. When his comrades come forward to check on him, they are horrified to see that he is stabbing one of them with the dagger. It was then that they realized Vale had lost control, and he continues to approach with the knife, ignoring the screams of those around him. Seeing that they are about to be attacked, Nick has no choice but to pull the trigger. As the group stands in shock, the plane suddenly begins to lurch violently. A crow slams into the glass, and when everyone looks up, they see more crows gathering in front of them. The crows continue to smash into the windshield, and with the pilot's death, the plane immediately loses control and begins plummeting toward the ground. In a critical moment, Nick hands the only parachute to Jenny, deciding to stay behind and crash with the plane. By the time the search and rescue team arrives, there are no survivors at the scene, and the transport sarcophagus has been opened. A man finds the mummy covered in cloth, and just as he is about to get closer to check it out, the mummy instantly pounces on him. This creature directly sucks the man's life, and as he turns into a dry corpse, the mummy bizarrely begins to grow flesh and blood. As the mummy screams, the men who have just died stand up again. Meanwhile, in the morgue, a corpse suddenly sits up, and the man who awakens is none other than Nick, who had been confirmed dead. As he turns around, Vale, who has also died earlier, appears behind him. It turns out that after Vale is bitten by a spider, his body is cursed by the princess. He tells Nick that he too has been chosen as a target by the gods of death. Just as Nick struggles to process this, Jenny enters to claim the body. After some time, the two of them go to a bar, but Nick isn't sure what his current situation is. He had no chance of survival, and there were no injuries on his body. Jenny then shares her archaeological findings. She explains that in ancient Egyptian history, a princess has been erased from the annals of time. Legend had it that she possessed a dagger of Seth with a gem set into it, and that gem was the Eye of Death. Once the jewel and the dagger become one, it can bring the god of death back to Earth. The sarcophagus they have unearthed contains the sealed mummy of Princess Amenet. The dagger of Seth was brought back to Europe during the invasion. The knights separated the gem from the dagger, burying the Eye of Death alongside a bishop. Now that Princess has broken the seal, she undoubtedly seeks to reassemble the dagger of Seth. As they talk, Nick sees Vale waving at him. At first he thinks it is an illusion, until Vale appears directly from the mirror. Nick realizes that Vale isn't lying to him, and Vale tells him that they are both cursed, and that Nick has been chosen by the gods of death. Once that princess kills him with the fully restored dagger of Seth, the god of death will use his body to return to Earth. Nick is overwhelmed by the sudden news, and just as he is about to calm down, a mummy comes toward him. A swarm of rats follows quickly, rushing toward him. As the rats surround him and begin devouring his body, the mummies in the distance draw closer. Just then, a beam of light flashes, snapping Nick back to consciousness. It turns out to be nothing more than a hallucination, yet the string of bizarre events completely terrifies him. He leads Jenny to a dilapidated convent, according to the image that suddenly appears in his mind. In the darkness, the two become separated. As Nick searches his surroundings, the church doors slowly creak open. The princess stands inside, having regained her former beauty. While Nick is momentarily lost in thought, several mummies attack and seize him. She then leaps onto Nick, and after confirming that he is indeed the one chosen by the god of death, she shatters the angelic statue before her. The long-lost dagger of Seth is hidden inside. Just as the princess is about to plunge it into Nick's body, she stops at the last moment. She realized that the Eye of Death was missing from the dagger. As her anger flared, Jenny arrives at the scene. The princess immediately attacks Jenny. She throws her aside, and Nick seizes the opportunity to escape from the clutches of the mummies. As Amenet is about to kill Jenny, Nick grabs the dagger and plunges it into the princess's body. The two manage to escape from the church, speeding away in a car, but a mummy quickly catches up with them. During their struggle, the car spins out of control, sending both of them tumbling down a hill. Just as Nick is about to help Jenny, the princess emerges from the mist once again. Nick grabs a wooden stick and charges at her, but she effortlessly knocks him aside with a single punch. As Amenet prepares to kill Jenny, a sharp arrow suddenly pierces her body. Moments later, iron hooks wrap tightly around her, restraining her completely. It turns out that Jenny's research organization has tracked them down. The princess is taken back to the base, where the leader warns Nick not to let her summon the god of death. If Seth takes over Nick's body, it will bring devastation to the entire world. As Nick approaches the imprisoned princess and their eyes meet, he is suddenly drawn into another vision. It is revealed that he has been chosen by the god of death in a past life. Amenet continues to tempt Nick with illusions, promising that if he summons the god of death, Seth, he will gain control over life and death, and she will become his queen. Just as Nick is about to surrender to the vision, he hears the princess scream, snapping him back to reality. The doctor, sensing danger, increases the injection of mercury into Amenet's body. Realizing that her plan has failed once more, the princess's eyes burn with rage. Meanwhile, as another archaeological team is excavating the Crusader's tomb, they unexpectedly discover a red gem upon opening the sarcophagus. Suddenly, the princess in the distance senses its presence, realizing it is none other than the lost Eye of Death, and immediately begins reciting the incantation. A sacred beetle slowly crawls out and creeps into the ear of a staff member, immediately causing the man's pupils to turn white. He first deactivates Amenet's mercury infusion, then picks up the axe and directly destroys the power supply of the laboratory. The princess's power immediately begins to return, and she expels all traces of mercury from her body and prepares to break free from her chains. The guards try to stop her, but they can't match her strength. In an instant, she drains one of them and turns him into a lifeless shell. She, who has regained her full strength, immediately begins to recite an incantation. She summons the sands to bring Nick back to her side. A sandstorm begins to envelop the city, and everyone flees quickly, but the sand is everywhere, and they have no chance to escape. Just as Nick loses hope, Vale suddenly reappears. He tells Nick that if he wants to stop this, he has to destroy the Eye of Death. He leads Nick to the tomb where the gem is located, but they don't know that Amunet has also arrived there. The guards are on alert in the tomb, but with the prince's spell, the dead who have been asleep for 1,000 years awaken. The dead immediately attack the guards, and Amunet effortlessly eliminates them all. As she steps into the tomb, the undead drop to their knees before her. She reclaims the Eye of Death, and with it, Seth's blade is finally restored to its original form. Meanwhile, Nick and Jenny face relentless attacks from the mummies on their way. Although Nick can fight them off with ease, their numbers seem endless. They are forced to flee through a passage but are swept into the water by a sudden attack. When they try their best to surface, the princess comes behind them. Jenny is dragged directly into the water by her. Nick can only watch as the two disappear from sight, with mummies appearing in the water one after another. He, pursued by the mummies, has no choice but to resurface. But when he emerges from the water, he realizes that the mummies have been waiting for him there. It is then that he notices Jenny lying lifelessly beside him. Just as rage consumes him, the princess appears once again. With a mere gesture, all the mummies around them crumble into ashes. She is determined to complete the unfinished ritual from 5,000 years ago, but Nick still tries to resist. The princess knocks him to the ground in one move, but finds that the blade of Seth has disappeared from her hand. It turns out that Nick has taken advantage of the moment to seize the dagger. He immediately smashes the Eye of Death onto the ground, knowing that once the gem is shattered, all the curses will be lifted. However, the princess tells him that if he can master the power of death, he can bring Jenny back to life. Nick plunges the dagger into his own chest, and instantly dark forces surge through him as the spirit of death begins descending upon his body. As Nick opens his eyes again, he notices that his pupils have become doubled. The princess gazes at the figure approaching slowly, but doesn't sense the breath of death. It turned out that Nick, with his belief in justice, had triumphed over the will of death. The princess still thought of awakening death, but she herself is easily repelled. Nick sucks the life out of the princess and turns him into a dry corpse. He then uses the power of death once more to revive Jenny, but he knows he is no longer a normal human. Finally, Nick chooses to leave alone, and the princess is once again placed in a sarcophagus and sealed. He also uses the power of death to resurrect Vale. Together, they continue their journey to find a way to break the curse. What do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please hit the like and subscribe to the channel for more content.